Thanks again, everybody who's joining us today. My name is Kyle Kite. I am the CFO and one of the advisors here at Klaas Financial. This is what we call a Klaas U webinar. So, we do a few of these a year on different topics. We like to say that we know enough to be dangerous in some of these certain situations and certain pieces of retirement planning, but we want to bring in the experts. Social Security is always a big one, so we're glad to have Megan Forristall here with us from the Social Security Administration. And then I'm also joined by Nate Brivey as well, who is another advisor in our office. And he's going to give you a little bit of the background on the firm. I see some familiar names here, so it might be a little bit of a repeat, but for those of you that aren't very familiar with us, Nate will give you kind of a rundown on who we are. And then we'll turn it over to Megan to go through her information here from Social Security, like I said. And as I said earlier, for those of you that didn't hear, we are going to have everyone muted for the time being. There is a Q&A box in the bottom of your screen and also a chat. You can ask any questions in there. We'll be checking it throughout the presentation. And then there is also a raise hand button that we can check that as well. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, just enter it in one of those formats and we'll make sure Megan can answer those as we go along here. So with that, go ahead, Nate.
Yep, just give a brief introduction here of Klaas Financial. For those of you who don't know, we are what's called a fee-only fiduciary registered investment advisor. So that means we have to act in our client's best interest when we're rendering advice, which is great to know when you're seeking a financial planner to give you guidance on your situation. So part of our financial planning process is mainly dealing with retirees and helping them with retirement planning. And obviously for most Americans, Social Security is a huge part of their planning process. So Kyle and I have 10 years each in our experience dealing with the situation, but we're so excited to have Megan today hear some information straight from the source and give us a background on Social Security, some of the different benefits available, and I'll also touch on Medicare a little bit at the end too. So two very important benefits that all retirees in their 60s, are going to be thinking about too. So please feel free to ask questions. Like Kyle said, I have a few that I'm going to ask Megan as well. But just think of questions that may pertain to you or others that you think could benefit from your asking a question as well. So with that, Megan, I'll turn it over to you for the presentation, and we're excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Okay, so today, like I'm going to go through a little review of benefits, specifically focusing on benefits relating to retirement or applying for retirement and who else might be eligible on your record. So it's just one of the many types of programs and features that we do at Social Security. And this is the one we're most associated probably with as far as when someone thinks of Social Security. And just to start with some basics as how you qualify for retirement benefits. When we work and we earn credits by paying Social Security taxes or those FICA taxes we see on our paychecks, we're working and paying into the Social Security Trust Fund, and we're earning credits for our future retirement. So to receive a retirement benefit from Social Security, you need 40 credits total. It does not matter when you earn those 40 credits, as long as you earn 40 credits in your lifetime. Most of us are going to be able to earn those in about 10 years of work because you can earn up to 4 credits a year. This year to earn a credit, it's $1,640. So this information I'm giving you today is all for 2023. Anytime we have a cost of living increase, this is generally going to cause everything we discuss as far as figures to go up. So if you're watching this for some reason in a different calendar year, just know that this is for 2023. Each $1,640 you earn gives you 1 credit. So this year, if you have $6,560, you have those 4 credits max you can earn in a year. Now, we're going to talk about it toward the end about a My Social Security account. That's where you can see how many credits you have. But maybe if you log in yours and say, well, I never seen a number, if you have a retirement benefit estimate, it means you have your 40 credits. So once we hit 40, we stop counting them. So if you see a retirement estimate, that means you've reached your 40 credits. I remember back when we used to get those paper statements every year, I think I had my 40 credits when I was around 26 years old because I'd started working summer jobs in my teens and was able to earn them easily in 10 years. But some people might take a little bit longer to earn those 40 credits, and that's fine. And then as long as you have your 40 credits and you're at least 62 years of age or older, that's the other thing. 62 is still the early minimum retirement age. Then as far as how we're going to determine your benefit amount, of course, a lot of people are making more than that minimum that you need just to get those 4 credits a year. And everything that you're earning up into the max taxable amount every year for Social Security earnings is going into determining your benefit amount. So the first thing we do, or the computer does, I should say, because I'm not sitting there with the calculator, don't worry, and manually figuring out your retirement benefit. The computer is going to take your wages and it's going to adjust them for wage levels over time, or adjust them for inflation. Then it's going to find the monthly average of your 35 highest years of earnings. And from there, we get your average index monthly earnings and we apply a formula to that. Now, if you happen to be a math person and you really enjoy this, you can go on to the section of our website and manually calculate, manually index your earnings and do this computation. That personally, that's not for me. So I just go on to my account and check out my estimate there.
Megan, I have a question. Can you define what the maximum taxable wage base is for this year?
Sure. Sorry, I just realized I put my folder in a different spot. So let me just grab it real quick for you.
Okay. Sorry for a tough.
That's okay. I just realized I put it out of arm's reach, like right as I said that. I'm preparing to pack for an event tomorrow.
And because a common question we get is, what if I don't have 35 years of earnings as well, right?
Sure.
How does the zero affect them, right?
Yep. So the zeros go into your computation years. So if you continue to work after you draw a Social Security benefit, we're always going to dump that 0 year and replace it with an earnings year. If you have 0 years in the computation, that you're just going to have those in there. But if you continue to work, you're always going to replace it if you have 0 years. Now, if you continue to work after you start drawing benefits, and in your mind, you say, well, I made more this year than I made in 2015. It might not be the case because of those indexing. So that's a common misconception. But the computer is always going to use your highest 35 years. It does a run every year and it dumps the lower year. So the maximum taxable earning for 2023 is $160,200. So that's what we stop taxing FICA taxes on. Now you continue to pay Medicare taxes after that, but we'll stop taking the FICA portion out after that, or your employer will.
Sure. Go ahead.
So,
yeah,
we have a question.
Yeah, we had a question come in, Megan. I don't know if you're going to get this later. She asked, any comments on HR Bill 82, Social Security Fairness Act of 2023, which would repeal the windfall elimination provision?
Already? It's so early. We don't comment on pending legislation because that is not my job. That's your lawmaker's job. So if you have questions about the bill, I'll direct you to your lawmakers. But no, we don't comment on any legislation whatsoever as the agency. And I will say, though, that is a reoccurring wish, and a lot of advocates of those laws push for. But no, we don't have anything to say about it at the agency when that kind of legislation is going on.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
So one of the questions we get is, when is the best age to start receiving a Social Security retirement benefit? And we're not a financial planner. We're not going to answer that for you at Social Security. The only thing we can tell you is what the money is going to be. So every single month from 62, which is that first point that you can draw, on up until your full retirement age. So in this example, the person's full retirement age is 67. It's going to increase every single month. Your full retirement age is when we consider you to be getting an unreduced benefit. Then between your full retirement age and age 70, every year you wait averages about 8% per year additional. So those are delayed retirement credits is the word for those, between your full retirement age and age 70. I have a mower outside, so hopefully it's not too loud on your end with the background noise. So what we're going to tell you is what that monthly figure is. If you ask, this is what it is at 62, every single month is going to keep going up until 70. The one thing we will tell you is don't wait past age 70, because at that point you're just losing out on money. It does not grow after 70. But there's going to be a variety of situations in between that are different. Your situation is different than your spouse even, or your neighbor, or your best friend, as far as when is going to be best to maybe draw for you. Sometimes people will look at the longevity in their family or their health to make that decision and say, well, you know, I'm going to go ahead and take it now because people don't tend to live very long in their family. Other people will say, oh, my grandma lived till she was 100, so I'm going to go ahead and try to max it out. You might wait until 65 so you can get Medicare. You know, you have to wait to retire from your employer for health insurance reasons. There's a variety of things in there, and that's going to be a personal decision for you. Again, we could just advise as to what your monthly amount will be.
And Megan,
So,
a question back on that, those increases are real increases in the sense that any cost of living adjustments would be on top of those delays, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
So full retirement age has been increasing. Right now, we're kind of in the in-between ground of people who are at, 66 and in 4 months, 6 months, 8 months with the retirees we're seeing. And once everyone born 1960 or later hits, we're at 67 for a full retirement age. So for myself, my full retirement age is 67. And if I would go ahead and take it at 62, I would see a 30% reduction. So a lot of people might say, well, I don't want to take that reduction. Other people might say, well, I can go ahead and get 5 extra years of payments, even though I'm taking that reduced amount. So again, it's going to be something that you're going to have to consider on your own. The one thing I can tell you want to look at is if you're still working, though, because if you are still working, we do have earnings limits as far as what you can work and make and still receive all of your monthly Social Security checks. So let's go through a couple examples with this, because it does get a little confusing when you're thinking about work. Generally speaking, I'll say if you are very gainfully employed and you're going to continue to keep working full time, you're probably not going to want to take your Social Security early until the point you stop working. But let's say maybe you are working part-time or something like that in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm going to be a little over that limit. Is it worth me taking a benefit? So whenever you file a benefit application, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you for, if you're still working and you're under your full retirement age, what do you plan on working and making? So let's say that you're 62 this year and you contacted us in the beginning of the year and said, I'm thinking about drawing, I'm making $36,000 this year. So what we would do is subtract the 21,240, and then we would divide the remainder by 2, because we're holding $1 for every 2 that you go over that. That leaves me, because I am using a calculator, cheating with it, $7,380 that you're over our earnings limit. So to make it easy, let's say your monthly benefit is $1,000 a month. We can't hold a partial benefit check. We have to hold all the money. We can't front. So we'd actually hold 8 months of benefit checks. So here you are, you took your check and said you wanted your check with January. We're holding January through August in work suspense. The first month you would receive a check is for September, paid in October, because all Social Security checks run a month behind. So at that situation, you might say, well, that doesn't sound great to me, because first of all, you're going to take the January 2023 rate, even though you're not getting that check until October. And, you're still going to be having that effect of that reduced rate all the way till your full retirement age. If you do decide to go ahead and take it early, at your full retirement age, what we're going to do is recalculate your benefits like you took them 8 months early. So we get rid of the 8 months of that age-related reduction, but it doesn't happen until you hit your full retirement age. So that's something to consider. But this is also why, if you should go ahead and draw and start working, that you want to report it to us, because there is an advantage to holding those checks and then getting that adjustment later, versus if you forget to tell us you went back to work and we find out about it the next year, you get an overpayment and you do not get any of that advantage at full retirement age. It's reducing that age-related reduction. So I know it sounds like a lot, but it'll make sense if you go through this once you kind of walk through the process.
Megan, I have a question on that. How about like a partial work year? Say someone worked through June and they retired at 63 and they made 30,000 through the first half of the year, but they claimed their benefit in July. Would they still fall subject to that reduction?
Nope, that was what I was going to actually talk about next. So you see that 1770 a month? No, that's okay. This is more interactive this way. You see that 1770 a month under it? That's just the yearly divided by 12. So in the year you retire, you can use either test. You can say, oh, I'm working all year. This would be the advantage of just if you're going to be maybe working a job for several months, but you're going to be just making a lot in those few months. You could say, oh, I'm going to make $30,000 this year, making 10 grand a month in the summer doing something or whatever. You would just do the yearly. But, or if you're working throughout the calendar year, you could do that. But if you, in your situation, said, well, I've just been waiting for the weather to get nice here in Illinois, and then I'm done working. So I'm going to be done working with June, or maybe, the end of May, let's say. And so we're in this month and you're going to be done at the end of this month. It does not matter how much you made from January through May. You could have made $1 million January through May. As long as you're going to be under that $1770 a month for June or whatever month you stop, every single month for the rest of the year, though. That's the key. You have to stay under 1770. I'm not 1771, 1770 every single month for the rest of the calendar year. Then next year, it just switches to the yearly. So you don't have to watch it so carefully. But that year, if you decide to go with that monthly test, that's very specific that you need to stay under that monthly limit. And that allows you to retire mid-year, even if you've worked full-time up until that point.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now you can see the year you turn your full retirement age, there's quite a bit higher of an earnings limit. So in the scenario where you're making $36,000 that we talked about earlier, but you're hitting your full retirement age this calendar year, we could have started your checks right away because you're at the 56,520 for an earnings limit. If you go over, we only hold $1 for every 3. And then the first day of the month in which you hit your full retirement age, the first day of that calendar month, you can work and make as much as you want, and it will not affect your Social Security checks.
We did have a question come in, Megan. With notice 2014-7, difficulty of care payments, did those payments through the Medicaid waiver program count against earning limits for Social Security survivor benefits?
I'm not specifically familiar with those payments. What we're looking at here is if it's going to be filed as wages, or net earnings from self-employment. So it depends on how they're being paid, I guess. I'm not familiar with that program. But it would be a wages so like on a W-2 or a net earnings from self-employment. So if it's paid on a 1099 and you're filing it as self-employment, your tax person would be able to answer that for you. But those are the two things that are going to go towards this earnings limit. It does not count things like unemployment, workers' comp, 401k payouts, things like that. I'm just not specifically familiar with what that is.
Okay.
Whenever you file a benefit for Social Security, we're going to ask some questions within the application about other people. So the first thing we're going to ask is, do you have any children that are under 18, still in high school, and a full-time student up until 19, or 18 or older and having a disability that began prior to age 22? So as far as benefits for children, these are the categories, and also they must be unmarried. And benefits for children can be paid if a parent is on disability, retirement, or a parent passes away. That last category is something to really keep in mind, disabled prior to age 22, because you might have an adult child that's maybe 35, 40 years old by the time that you go to file for a retirement benefit. If that adult child has had a disabling condition since prior to age 22, they're not married, and they've not worked substantially, they can potentially get a benefit off your record. They don't have to have been on disability since before age 22. They just need to have medical evidence showing that they have a disabling condition since before age 22. Now, when we're talking about benefits with a spouse for this presentation, we're going to assume something we call deemed filing. So we're going to assume that everyone that's thinking about this was born after January 1st of 1954. And with deemed filing, what that says is you have to file for any benefit you're eligible for, which means if you have 40 credits on your own record, you have to take your own benefit before we look at any benefit off a spouse. So when you file an application, we're going to ask about marriages. After we ask about children, we're going to say, are you currently married? If you answer yes, what we're going to look at is, first of all, we can only look at a current spouse benefit for either you or your spouse if you both are filing or on benefits. There's no benefit payable to a current spouse if the other person is not on benefits yet or filing. And then if you both have 40 credits, we're going to look at each of your own retirement benefits first. So we're going to look at 100% of your own benefit and that full retirement age rate benefit. Even if you're 62, we're going to look at your full retirement age, 100% of that. We're going to look at 50% of your spouse's full retirement age rate. If 100% of your own is more than 50% of your spouse's, there's no spousal benefit payable to you. Same vice versa for your spouse. If 100% of their own is more than 50% of yours, they will not receive a benefit off your record. Because we're always, if born after that point, checking your own record first. If it's less and you have your 40 credits, we're going to pay you what we can on your own, and the difference between 100% of your own and 50% of your spouse's off of that record. So you're not receiving both total, you're receiving up to the 50%. And then if you're under your full retirement age, we're also applying that age-related reduction to both benefits. Anytime we pay a benefit to a spouse, it does not reduce the payment of the worker it's being received off of. Also, you need to be 62. And like I said, your spouse needs to be collecting to draw off them unless you are caring for a child who is under 16 or has a disability of the worker. Now, the other thing I'll mention here is just like you have that work and earnings limit, your spouse who is under full retirement age and actually your children have the same earnings limit as you. So maybe you do have a spouse that's caring for a child that's under 16, but if they're working way over the earnings limit, again, they might not be eligible. They'd be in work suspense, and it might not even be worth them applying if there's children on the record. So that's something they'll talk about, but you just go ahead and list the spouse, and then we will screen for all potential eligible benefits.
Megan, I have a question. If, let's say the husband claims early at 62, the spouse, the wife could actually wait to get the full 50% if she waited to FRA, correct? She wouldn't receive a reduction if the spouse.
Correct, as long as she doesn't draw off of anything.
Correct. Yep, if
Yeah.
she just deferred. Yeah, but
Completely
only if,
waits.
say she didn't have a record, right? She didn't have a record. She's just eligible for a spousal record on his earnings. Him claiming early wouldn't affect her spousal benefit, her eligibility to get the full 50 if she waited, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
She doesn't have to take it until she's ready, as long as she's not applying for any other type of benefit.
Sure, but if he predeceases her, his early claim would be a reduction to her, correct? If she assumed
Correct, on the survivor issue. Yeah. There's survivor's benefits has multiple tiered formulas to it. So it has to do with her age, when he took it, his age. There's a whole computation to it. So we kind of speak more generally about survivors rates, and I'm going to talk about them in a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
Because there are multiple different computations that we go through the record on, and looking at spouse's age, the person's age, if they took it reduced, and it depends on a variety of things. So, but generally speaking, we give a computation range.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the other question we're going to ask is any prior marriages lasting longer than 10 years. And with divorce spouse benefits, same premise with the deemed filing. We're always looking at the person's own, if they're born after that date, before looking at benefits off a former spouse. To receive a divorce spouse benefit, the marriage has to have lasted at least 10 years. You cannot be currently remarried to anyone else. You have to be at least 62 years of age or older. Here's the big difference with divorce spouse benefits. To receive off a former spouse, they do not have to be collecting a benefit yet. Like a current spouse, this other spouse has to be collecting. Divorce spouse, the other spouse does not need to be collecting. They just have to be eligible to collect a benefit, meaning they're at least 62, they have those 40 credits, or they could be receiving a disability benefit. So that's the big difference there with those divorce spouse benefits. And with the divorce spouse benefit, again, it's not going to reduce the payment of the worker, and we can pay it independently of the benefits of a current spouse and children on the record. And then the final category involving spousal benefits is survivor's benefits. So again, the rules for eligibility are the same for children, but for surviving spouses or surviving divorce spouses, there are some differences with this category. The benefits can begin as early as age 60 or as early as age 50 if you have a disability, or any age of caring for the child of the worker who passed away, who is under 16 or receiving a disability benefit. The other thing is you can remarry after age 60 and keep eligibility to the survivor's benefits. So that's another difference with survivor's benefits. And then probably the final difference is the amount you can receive. So at age 60, it's 71.5% of the full benefit. It goes up every month you wait until full retirement age. It can be up to 100%. And again, there's going to be some factors that go into that computation based on when the person took it potentially and things like that, but up to 100% at full retirement age. Now, we do not pay delayed retirement credits on a survivor's benefit. So you do not want to wait past full retirement age to take the survivor's benefit. So a little comparison chart, just kind of break it down for you. Spouse off someone who's living, or divorced spouse off someone who's living, versus surviving spouse or divorced spouse off someone who's passed away. Age 62 off someone who's living, age 60 or as early as 50 off someone who's passed away. 50% if you wait till full retirement off someone who's living, 71.5% to up to 100% off someone who's passed away. Now, survivor's benefits are an exception to deemed filing. So there are some extra strategies you can use with survivor's benefits that aren't available for regular spousal benefits. So some things you can decide and think about doing at age 60, you could take the survivor's benefit. You could switch as soon as or age 62 if you want, if yours is higher at that point, or whenever yours becomes higher. Or you can even wait all the way till 70 to switch to your own and max out your delayed retirement credits. Or you can take your own benefit at 62 and then hold off on the survivor's benefit up until full retirement age to max out that survivor's benefit. So there are some options there with survivor's benefits. Now, we used to get notification from a funeral home with a form that lists the surviving spouse on it or other survivors when someone passed away. Everything is electronic now with the funeral home. So we generally don't receive that form at the office to know who we need to contact. It's important that you contact us about survivor's benefits if you have a spouse or former spouse pass away to check for eligibility. Because it's a lot of times common now where somebody was not eligible for regular spousal benefits because they had their own earnings record and it was higher than that 50%. But if the higher earner passes away first, then they're then eligible for survivor's benefits. So we need to know that so we can take that application, because we're not automatically going to know to do that. The other thing we're going to screen eligibility for is our lump sum death payment. It's $255. You've probably seen life insurance commercials making fun of it on Saturday morning TV, but this is the amount it's been, I'm sure, since its inception. In my 18 years at the agency, it's always been $255, but it's only payable to the surviving spouse. So somebody who was currently married to the person, or a minor child or disabled child on the record. It does not payable to a divorced spouse, the estate, or an adult child who's not disabled. And then a very little known category of benefits. I have never had a claim for it in my 18 years in the agency, but we do have parents' benefits. And this is if an adult child passes away and they were providing at least half financial support to a parent age 62 years of age or older, the parent might be eligible for benefits off the child's record. But again, that's something that we need to be contacted about to screen for eligibility for. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Medicare. And just to preface by saying at Social Security, the only thing we're responsible for Medicare basically is enrollment in Part A and Part B, but I can cover the basics with you. Everything else though, as far as billing and picking plans, information on what is covered, you're going to go to medicare.gov. And this is a good time for me to remind you that always make sure you're going to .gov. If you're going to Social Security, Medicare, IRS, it's always a .gov. So don't go to a .com because that's probably going to be someone trying to scam you out of some money. So with Medicare, we've had the Part A and the Part B around for a long time. The Part A is your hospital insurance. If you have your 40 credits from you or a spouse's record, there's no monthly premium for that. There is a deductible, but no monthly premium. Part B, the base premium this year is $164.90 a month. Some people do pay more. In addition to those, you can add prescription drug plan. I can tell you that came around 18 years ago because that's when I got hired, is when they started the Part D stuff. And then in addition to that, you can add supplemental insurance. So anything above the letter D is a supplement. But now increasingly popular, we have Medicare Advantage plans, also known as Part C. So when you're on an Advantage plan, you're still enrolling in the A and the B through Social Security. But once you have your Medicare Advantage plan set up, all the questions go directly to Medicare, to your Medicare Advantage plan, rather than to the Medicare itself. They're going to control your billing, their coverage, all of those things. Sometimes people like these Medicare Advantage plans because usually they'll just figure out your Part D plan, have it already alongside of it. So it's not a separate thing to figure out. And also it might have vision, hearing, dental, and things that aren't traditionally covered very well by basic Medicare. So again, medicare.gov has all the additional information on that. As far as when people are thinking about Medicare, it's usually age 65 is what people have in mind. That's the first opportunity to get into Medicare based on age alone. But we do have Medicare eligibility for individuals who are on Social Security disability for 24 months, or specific policies involving ALS or kidney failure, also known as end-stage renal disease. As far as age 65 goes, the first opportunity to get into Medicare is your initial enrollment period. So this is the 3 months before you turn 65, the month of your birthday, and the 3 months after your birthday. If you want it at age 65, though, right away, you need to get it done in that first 3 months. If you are already receiving a Social Security check, so you took your retirement benefits already prior to turning 65, or you got a survivor's benefit, spousal benefit, something like that, you are automatically going to be enrolled in Medicare A and B. The card comes about 3 to 4 months before your birthday. You're starting to get a ton of junk mail at that time because everyone in the world figured out you're turning 65. So open your mail carefully because a lot of people throw this card away. It comes in, it's a little kind of cardboard, cardstock cut out. It's not, it has a little emblem in the corner with a bird on it. So a lot of people just think it's another piece of junk mail. So just make sure you're watching for that if you're already on Social Security. But if you're not on Social Security yet, there is nothing magical that happens that puts you into Medicare. You do have to file that application if you need it at age 65. Not everyone does need to apply to have the Medicare at age 65, especially the Part B, because that does cost money. And that would be if you are still working and covered under a group health plan based on current employment. And that current employment is very important. I just had a person I talked to today that's been covering her husband for 10 years after she retired. And now we have to figure out if we can get him into Medicare. It's probably not going to happen very easily because we're outside of the general enrollment and he hasn't been covered on current employment. He's been covered under a retiree insurance. So that's the important thing to know. If you're still working, coming up on 65, you're planning to continue working and you're covered under a group health plan, or your spouse is currently working and covering you, just double check with your plan administrator at work, your HR person, and say, hey, do I need to get into Medicare? Most of the time they're going to say no. You can still continue to keep that coverage after at 65 through the employer group health. And that's great. If you're in that situation, you'll have a special enrollment period. When it's time for the work to stop, we can get you right in the Part B, no problem. But if you're in that situation that I just talked about, or when you hit 65, you're like, I really don't want to pay $164.90 a month because I'm just always healthy and I never get sick. That's a situation where you're going to be looking at the general enrollment period. It is only through January through March of every year. So that's the only opportunity to get in if you're in that situation where you did not have the employer group health. And you're going to have a 10% penalty onto the monthly premium for every year you didn't take it. So if that scenario, the gentleman's not able to get his coverage worked out, he has to wait till January of next year, and he's going to have 100% penalty onto the monthly premium. So his Part B is going to double for the rest of his lifetime. So within your initial enrollment period, again, 1 to 3 months before turning 65, it's going to start the first day of the month in which you're 65. The month of, or the 3 months after, it's going to start the month after you sign up. So it can't backdate to age 65. So you want to make sure you get it done early. In the general enrollment period, January through March of every year, it's the first day of the month after you sign up. So February through April is when the coverage would begin, depending on when you contact us. And then that special enrollment period, when you have that situation, it can, when you're still covered under the current employment or during the first full month after, you can decide, do you want the first day of the month in which you enroll? So if it was this month that you're asking for it and this month that you're still covered under it, or the month after, we can start it back to May 1st or any of the next 3 months. But after that, the next following month for the next 7, it's going to be the first day after of the month after you contacted and got the paperwork in. So a lot of times people might already have the Part A because it's free. The only time I will caution against taking the Part A only is if you have a health savings account, because there's some tax implications there. But if you don't have a health savings account or you're on retirement benefits, you're automatically going to be put in Part A. You have to have that if you're already on retirement, or you just want to go ahead and get the Part A done because you don't have that health savings account. Then when you're ready for the special enrollment period, it's just really easy. 2 forms. The 40B you're going to fill out, and in the remarks you're going to tell us when you want the coverage to start. The L564, your employer or your spouse's employer fills out, verifying you have the coverage every single day since age 65, and then that'll get you that special enrollment period. Then you can either submit those online or fax or mail or drop off the completed applications or completed forms to your local office. As I mentioned, Medicare.gov is where you can go for all the answers to your other questions involving Medicare outside enrolling in Part A and Part B. And the base premium, as I said, is $164.90 a month, but you might pay an additional premium. If you are in the situation where you're going to have this additional premium, it's called IRMA, or Income Related Monthly Adjustment. You're going to receive a several-page letter in the mail letting you know about the situation. At Social Security, we can't tell you whether you're going to have this or not when we process your application, because we don't have access to your modified adjusted gross income, and that is what they use to determine this. And they're not using 2023s because we don't know that yet. they're using 2021. They're always using 2 years prior. So you'll get the letter in the mail. It'll explain why you're paying the additional premium, how much additional you're paying. It'll also talk about if you've had situations where we might be able to reduce or eliminate this additional premium. These are if you've had life-changing events, and there'll be a list of them. The most common life-changing event that's happening around this time is work stoppage because you're retiring. So if you did have work stoppage, there's a form you can complete and you can provide proof of that work ending, and you can ask us to use either the most recent estimate for 2023 or maybe last year, depending on when the life-changing event happened. We can use a different modified adjusted gross income. So that letter will walk you through everything. But there's also some common scenarios that will just cause you to have the income related monthly adjustment. Maybe you consistently have this level of income. Maybe you sold a house a couple of years ago and that's in your modified adjusted gross income. And if that's the situation, it'll be higher for the 1 year, for the 2 years after that. So if you sold it in 2021, you're going to see that additional premium in 2023. Believe it or not, I had a guy who had a really good year in Vegas 1 year. He didn't have that money by the time he got the letter about his income related monthly adjustment, but it was going to keep him higher for that 1 year because he did have those extra earnings that year. So it's just something to be aware of because you might have that situation and you will receive that detailed letter with that. As far as how to apply for all the benefits we talked about today, except survivors, the easiest way to do it is online. Survivors benefits are not yet available online, but retirement spouses, we didn't talk about disability, but that is available online, or Medicare. If you are going off of work due to a medical condition, so maybe you're 62, but you're like, I'm not really excited to be stopping work. I medically can't work anymore. Consider filing for disability. If you need the money right away, you can file for retirement at the same time, get those checks going because the disability application takes a while, but you can apply for disability up into your full retirement age. Survivors benefits, as I said, is not available online. So if you're not able to go online or it's a survivor's application, you can call and set up a phone appointment, and that you can do through our toll-free number. We are doing very limited in-office appointments right now. So we're open to walk-in traffic to the public, but as far as filing for an actual benefit like retirement or disability or survivors, generally those are being done via phone appointment. So if you have a certain issue that you absolutely can't do it over the phone, we'll schedule you in office, but otherwise you're likely going to be set up for a phone appointment for that interview. Then this is what our socialsecurity.gov website homepage looks like. So it's kind of how you know you're on the right spot. You're at ssa.gov, you seal our seal, and this is what it looks like. If you haven't been on for quite a while, you'll notice that it looks different now because we did revamp it several months ago. And this has a very well laid out sections to prepare, to apply, and a lot of other great features under the different tabs. You can learn more about the benefits under the benefits tab and manage your benefits through your online account. We also have a good variety of online calculators. One of the great ones is actually behind your My Social Security firewall now. That's the retirement estimator. So if you want to play around with the estimates we're giving you, because maybe you're going to start making more money than we anticipated you were going to based on your previous earnings, or maybe you're going to stop early, something like that, you can go in and put those scenarios in the calculator and see how it adjusts your benefit estimate. And if you have not created your online account yet, we do recommend that actually everyone over the age of 18 creates the online account. I've had one for several years. I think they're a pretty neat feature of our website. So I've gotten all my friends to sign up for one and encouraged. And I got one friend that's older than me. He's 60, so he checks it all the time now. He's getting more excited. He's always logging in. Check it out, see how close he is. Okay. So if you have an account already and you've had it since before September of 2021, you're going to have a username and password. You can keep logging in like you always did. Or else, if you've never created an account, you're going to log in and you're going to go to create an account and be logged into, directed to go to login.gov to create an account through them and directed back to us to get a complete registration and use the activation code. If you already have login.gov, you can skip that step of creating the account. Or if you are military or maybe for another reason have an ID.me account, you can use that to log into your My Social Security. So several options there. But we do encourage you to get this done if you haven't already. And if you need assistance, maybe you're having trouble getting through that registration process, you can bring a form of ID into the local office to get help with that activation code. The reason we want everyone to create one of these accounts as soon as they're 18, the big reason is check your earnings record once a year. So I don't know, I know everyone misses those paper statements, but I don't know how many claims I took that the person would be like, well, I never looked at it, I just threw it away. The reason we send those out is we want to make sure your earnings are posted correctly. It's not common for us to be missing a year, but when we are, it's much easier for you to say, oh, here's 2020's W-2. I noticed it's missing, than for us to say, hey, do you have that W-2 from 1990? That's going to be a little more difficult for you to get your earnings record corrected. So that's why you want to log in there once a year, make sure everything looks great, and then do all your planning for getting your estimates for disability, retirement, survivors. If you don't have 40 credits yet, it'll give you the number that you're at. Also in the state of Illinois, if you have a valid driver's license or state ID, actually in most states now, almost all of them, but in Illinois, if you have a driver's license or state ID, you can replace your Social Security card generally online. So if you have someone younger in your life, they're in college right now, they're going to need that card to get back in, to get out in the workforce. Encourage them to set up an account. They can apply for that replacement card. Once you're on benefits, even more you can do. You can opt out of mail notices if you like. If you're really great with internet and you'd rather just get them all online, you can get your replacement Medicare card or 1099 at tax season, change your address, phone number, direct deposit information. You can also, maybe you're not on benefits yet, but you're helping somebody who is, and they tell you, I need my award letter, I need my proof of income, is the language people use a lot. A lot of programs ask for that proof. That we call a benefit verification letter. You can print that right up, shows your monthly amount, shows Medicare eligibility, all those great things. You can print it right from any computer.
Hey,
And
Megan,
you, yes.
sorry, one question.
Sure.
What's the best way to change withholding or start withholding on Social Security?
That's a good question. We don't quite have that up online, but you can get the W-4V form online. So you can print that up online. If you don't have a printer, you can request it from us, but it's the tax form W-4V. And then you can just mail or fax it or drop it off at your local office. So you can start, stop, or change your withholding anytime. I know they're working on getting that as part of our online account.
Okay.
I think there's just some limitations right now because it's technically an IRS form that are causing the delays in getting that feature
Sure.
in there.
But when they initially enroll, will they be asked that question? Will they be able to opt into it when they enroll?
That's a really good question. It's not part of the application path because it is voluntary.
Sure.
So you can add it to the remarks of your application. If you're filing online, you can tell us the percentage you want. If you are doing a phone appointment, you can mention that to the interviewer and they'll get that set up. And then again, if you need to stop or start or change it later on, you can always just submit a new form.
Sure.
And if you have an online account, you can actually print up this nice colored statement. If you're somebody who likes that physical copy, it'll be in the color. If you are 60 or older and you have not gotten your online account set up yet, you will get one in the mail, but it'll be black and white. And also these statements no longer show every single year of your earnings history. It summarizes the years for a category. So that's another benefit of the online account. You can actually see every single year to make sure it looks good. But they are nice. They do have your estimates on there. And if you're somebody who likes this hard copy, you can get that from your account as well.
Megan, can you go back one page? Sorry. Like when they show the monthly benefit amount, can you talk about like the assumptions built into there, right? You talked about the calculator online. Like what if I don't make that dollar amount right up into that age? Can you explain that?
Sure. So generally this is assuming that you're going to make what you did the most recent year for the next 5. So that's the assumption that it uses. So of course, the closer you are to your full retirement age, the more accurate this estimate is. But again, like I said, if you know what your planning going to be, you can go use that calculator to adjust things. So if you're, this person made 51,000 in 2020, and if they said, well, I'm kind of kicking back on work, I'm gonna make half that now, then you can go adjust that. Or you got a really great job and you're gonna, have that raise, you can go use that calculator to adjust that. But generally, when I've had people call in that are right at filing time, their estimate has been pretty spot on in this versus on our computer system with the live estimate. So the one other thing we always like to talk about whenever we have a sort of audience is scam calls. We're finally moving down the list as not being the most targeted. You probably get more car warranty calls now, maybe, or things like that, but we are still pretty high up there as far as scams. And especially, it's interesting, the elderly population is losing a lot more money, but younger people fall victim to scams more often. We just have less money to lose. So it is a fact. It's a misconception that only certain age range falls victim to these. It's just that people are losing more money when they're of a certain age. So we always just want you to help us spread awareness of this too. If you follow us on social media, we put out PSAs, hit the share button. I have these flyers when I go to events, and I had someone grab one from me and they said, I'm going to tape this up by my mom's phone because she still has a home phone. Like whatever you can do to remind people that, these are out there, that we are never going to threaten you. We do not suspend a social security number. There's no such thing. We don't demand immediate payment. We don't work with the DEA to call you and talk about your car being found in Mexico and work in conjunction with people to threaten you. But they will keep people on the phone for days to get the amount of money they have. We've had high profile lawmakers have fallen victim to these scams because they are very convincing and they're intimidating. So just always hang up, never give money or personal information. If you have time, report the scam to our OIG page, because they do try to track the numbers times a day to get at least the people, if they're in another country, they can at least get through the US side of things. And they have been successful in catching some of these rings. So that's why they like if you can, to take the time to report them. And again, we are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you were on our social media, we released baby names last week. You would have been right in the forefront to get that release because we post them on social media first thing. And it's faster than I can get my releases sent out to all the people on my mailing list. So it's fun to follow us on social media to keep up on things. Any other questions we have?
Awesome. Nothing's come through yet. If anybody does have a question, you can enter it in the chat or the Q&A, like I said, down at the bottom, or you can push the raise hand button, which is down there as well. We'll keep Megan on here for another minute or two, unless nothing else comes through. But hopefully you guys found this very informational. Social Security is one of the biggest questions that we get all the time. And as Megan said, obviously the biggest question probably that we get as retirement planners is, when should I take Social Security? My joke is, tell me the day you're going to die and we can tell you when you should take it. But we have calculators, we can run break-even analysis and all that kind of stuff, but it is a very personal decision. And what the math says isn't necessarily what you may want to do as a human being and psychologically as well. So we're happy to help run through all that kind of stuff. And for those of you that have been with us for a while and we've done a full financial plan, there's probably a reason why we're having you take it at 67 or wait till 70 or take it early, all kinds of stuff like that. So Nate, anything you want to add? We haven't had
No, just one question, Megan, maybe on retroactive benefits or someone who claims at or after full retirement age. Is that something, can you, one, explain what that is? And two, is that something they have to opt out of, or they have to opt in if they want to receive that lump sum, right?
Yes. So we can go back up to 6 months if you're past your full retirement age or full retirement age, but the max is 6 months. So if you're 67 and you contact us, we can ask you, do you want to take up to 6 months back? You will start at the rate then of the 6 months prior. So that's one consideration. And you do have to opt in. Now, the one thing that does not opt in is the Medicare Part A goes back up to 6 months, and we can't control the Medicare Part A start date. So that's something we like to warn people. If that's that health savings account, people usually
Sure.
stop paying in the 6 months. But as far as the monetary benefit, yes, you do have to elect to take that back pay. We're not automatically going to give it to you, but they'll probably discuss it with you as an option.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we haven't had anything else come through. Megan, you were basically right on time. About just about an hour was perfect. So you've done this a time or two, obviously.
I have.
Great work, Megan.
Thank you.
So if any of you that are on the call have questions, obviously reach out to us. We can get you in touch with Megan if we need to. But she's been a great help to us as a firm as well. If we have kind of one-off unique questions, she seems to have some great answers for us. Like I said, we know enough to be dangerous on some of the stuff, but sometimes there are some really unique things where we have to bring people like Megan in. So with that, everything else is done. It looks like no other questions. So as I said in the beginning, guys, we will be recording this and we will get this posted on our website. Like I said, it usually takes us a few days up to a week to kind of get everything edited and pushed on there. But if you want to re-listen it or go back to certain parts, it will be on our website here soon. But outside of that, like I said, thanks for joining us. Get outside and enjoy the sunshine. And it's almost a perfect day today. So
Yeah,
hopefully everybody enjoyed this, and we will see you guys for the next one in another month or so. We'll do a different topic. So thanks everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Megan.
Megan, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.